So we've had a relatively interesting year in GeoServer. This is our State of GeoServer presentation, where we talk about what we've been up to basically since the last FOSS4G. We're going to cover a number of releases of GeoServer. So our current stable release of GeoServer is GeoServer 2.23. You can kind of tell we've been on version 2 of GeoServer for a long time. I don't think we have plans for GeoServer 3, do we?
We try very hard not to go there.
Fair enough, fair enough. My name's Jody Garnett. I'd like to thank my employer, GeoCat, for giving me an opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you. My name is Andrea Aime. I work for GeoSolutions, and I would also like to thank my company for sending me here. And, well, hopefully we are going to start real soon.
Do we even need slides?
A little bit of pictures would be nice.
So GeoServer is a web service application. It's responsible for taking your data from wherever you have it and letting you share it with others. So it's most well known as a web map server, so responsible for mapping and visualization. By some metrics, it's the most popular web map server in the world, so responsible for the most number of layers being published as a WMS. It also speaks a number of other protocols. You can use it to share your vector data and your raster data. And then it can be extended with optional extensions for like web processing service, and we've got some community modules for OGC API and other stuff. If you go to the top right corner, there's a presentation mode. Yeah. Oh, this is... Okay, fair enough. I've just done this slide, so we're good. So our team updates. In addition to Andrea and myself, there's a core GeoServer team consisting of the project steering committee, responsible for the care and feeding of the project. And then we actually have core committers who do the bulk of the work. We got 23 kind of active committers lately that bring this project to you. We also have some core service providers. So these are often the employers of the people that do the work. And we try to acknowledge the organizations that bring GeoServer to you. So the core contributors actually help make the releases and everything. The experienced providers have a history of working with GeoServer and then contributing back to the project. And in addition to those people, there's other service providers that will help you with GeoServer, but don't necessarily have a strong tradition of like adding to the sustainability of the project. In terms of GeoServer infrastructure, we have some. We've largely moved to OSGeo hosting and infrastructure. So in terms of community modules, our formal extensions that we release alongside GeoServer are kind of well established and have documentation and quality assurance, and we trust them. We also have a playground called community modules where we experiment with new ideas that people are considering. And when those graduate, they become an extension. And once they become kind of out of date or not interesting, like things like ArcSD and so on, they get downgraded and eventually reach an end of life. So on to GeoServer releases. So we always maintain 2 releases at any given point. So we've got our stable release, which is currently GeoServer 2.23, and that provides like new features and updates and bug fixes. And then we've got a maintenance stream that only provides like security updates and fixes, and that gives you a chance to upgrade. So if you're using an older version, please upgrade. That's how we can be sure to equip you with the latest, security fixes and features and so on. Yeah. So please upgrade. As we go through this talk, if you look along the bottom of the screen, you can see which version the feature was available in, the author responsible, and in many cases, the customer or the organization that was paying for the work. I'll do distribution and then hand this over. So a new feature done by me out of the kindness of my heart is making a Docker image available of nightly builds. And I did this as part of the OGC API sprint so that normal people can download our OGC API work and try it out and give us feedback. over to you.
So, news about mapping. So, right, we improved a lot the mosaicing performance when you have a lot of tiny files that are being mosaicked together. The old rule of thumb was try not to mosaic more than 100 files in the same output image. Now we can do much better, much faster, even with many small images. We also improved the support for hyperspectral images. An image is hyperspectral when you have 100 bands or more, 200, 500, 1000 with these new sensors. GeoServer had some trouble dealing with it, but now we improved the performance by several order of magnitude. Currently working on this. It's not complete. It's going to land in the next few weeks. Raster attribute table support. It's this idea that you have a raster with numbers inside, but you want to attach attributes to those numbers and then use them in get feature info to do classifications, to do custom palettes, and so on. And we are going to mimic, if you are familiar with it, the QGIS raster attribute table plugin behavior. Data sources and formats. Right. In a previous version of GeoServer, we added the ability to customize type names and attribute names and so on. In this version, we also added the ability to customize the description that eventually goes into the schema definition of a feature type in WFS. We are working hard on the cloud-optimized GeoTIFF community module, which is efficiently reading data from blob storage if it's in COG format. We added support for HTTP, S3, Azure, and Google storage. We hope to add more formats, more authentication types support, because every cloud has its own little strange authentication mechanism, and other improvements and fixes. The last one to land was the COG support for Azure. We have been working on the Stack Data Store and Stack Mosaic. Stack Data Store can link to a Stack API and expose it as WFS, WMS as you like, but it can also be used as an index for a mosaic so that you can fetch data from, links from Stack and then mosaic the images into a map request.
I'm going to stop that.
Vector Mosaicing Store, it's a new entry. It's this idea that you might also want to mosaic vectors over time, over space, because paying for the storage of a database on cloud is very expensive, and you might want to store the vectors as little files in S3 instead. And in the database, you only have an index pointing to them. And based on the request, the time you chose and whatnot, it's going to pick the right files, read them, and render the output. We have a large number of WMS, WFS, and WMTS cascading improvements that have all come from the same person. Roar Bradnan, I hope that I pronounced the name correctly, is working on the GeoTools library, actually, but that library then powers all the cascading modules, so we would like to thank this person for all the improvements. Services. Okay, the CSW module ISO graduated. It's a module that allows you to generate ISO records out of the CSW plugin of GeoServer. You have a template that you can fill in to customize your output. In terms of customization, we have this new metadata module where you can type a little YAML file which will generate an editor in the user interface. You can edit whatever extra attribute you want, and then you can use these attributes in your ISO templates for CSW. So this makes GeoServer much more powerful in terms of the information that it can share through CSW. We are doing a lot of work on the GC API community modules. I just did a presentation about it. The Features API is actually site compliant, so it passes the conformance tests. The others are in various states of development. Please come talk to me if you're interested in it and would like to contribute some.
Thanks, Andrea. And we really would like and appreciate your support for funding the GeoServer roadmap. I'm really interested in OGC API, and I'd like to see someone send money to Andrea or myself, or let's get this done. Some work I did for my employer, GeoCat, was actually adjusting the GeoServer home welcome page. It has been the first visual change for a decade. So I've had lots of people come up to me this week and say, what happened, what's going on here? What's interesting is we can now actually see the title and the description that you've set up for your different services. And what's really neat is you can swap between the different workspaces and see the web services that are specific for one project team. And that feature has been in GeoServer for ages, and nobody noticed until we had a UI. So I enjoy making these things, and then Andrea enjoys making them not terrible. So Andrea added the ability to stop the welcome page taking minutes and minutes to load when people have like 50,000 layers. Thanks, Andrea. Another just real minor change is you can now see what format your different styles are in, SLD, etc. We also have a fun just tweak to our REST API. So for the longest time, you've been able to reset and reload your GeoServer configuration, which is great. But if maybe your Postgres database went down and now it's working again, rather than reload your entire GeoServer, you can ask just that data store to load, or even just that layer to load if you've